recently I made a video on email and like private email and how it relates to like self-hosting, because of course to self-host anything, like to get a VPS, a domain and so on, you need an email address. So the question was kind of like, well, how do you, like what email service should you use to self-host your email? And the same guy who asked me this question also sent me another message, and this time it relates to like VPS providers and what kind of good providers or private providers out there. So I'll just read it out again. Hello, thanks for the response. And since he said I really appreciate the answer in a YouTube video, I thought I'd just make another one. And I mean, this kind of stuff is, I think, interesting to like more people. I mean, especially like if you've seen like some of my videos on self-hosting, you of course need a VPS provider in most cases, and so on. So yeah, but I'm curious, is there a good VPS that is private or at least good? Because as I checked, there are many VPS. So VPS providers, I guess he means. Of course, VPS is just a random person, company, computer where I can store my data, but still, what do you think? So I kind of want to, in this video, show you some providers I've used in the past and what I actually use. And it's going to be a bit anticlimactic, I guess, because I actually don't use a like private VPS provider. But I'll talk about it and also talk about my kind of choice and my motivation. And yeah, so I'll just switch to my browser and I have 4 tabs open here. So the first is, if you've seen the video on like emails or email providers, it's the same group, and the same group who provide cock.ly, so the anonymous email service, also have a VPS provider service, you could say. And this is their site. I mean, the mascot, and it's all very similar to the other site, of course. And I mean, yeah, they provide service. They accept Bitcoin and Monero. They have all the stuff you expect. So you can, for example, choose your own ISO. You can choose like custom storage, VNC, access, and like automatic provisioning, and so on and so forth. They have like different kind of tiers of servers, and they're all located in kind of, I guess, offshore, quote unquote, countries. So countries that have more relaxed standards when it comes to like privacy and stuff like that, I guess. So yeah. And I have used this in the past, I think once, if I remember correctly, for like one project I had, and I paid with Monero, and it was kind of a, like, if I remember correctly, it was kind of a bad experience, to be honest. Like, I think if I remember correctly, I had like some problem, and then I couldn't reach support, and everyone on the mailing list was like, well, what's going on? When are these guys coming back? Something like this. So yeah, I don't know. But that is not the reason why I don't use it. It's more, that more has to do with like crypto payment systems in general. But I'll get into that in a second. So, but this is one VPS provider which you can use anonymously, and which accept anonymous payment methods, and which have like VPSs, so servers at a, I would say, reasonable price. I mean, $15 a month is not that much, but okay, you get 1 virtual CPU core, 2 gigabytes of memory, and 20 gigabytes of NVMe storage. So, I mean, are the prices here, like, can they compete with like more quote unquote mainstream providers? Probably not. But so yeah, that's kind of the price you pay for in all of these cases for having like a private provider, I guess. So next up is Nalia. I don't know how to pronounce it, and every time I look it up, I forget how it's spelled. So but it means kind of, if we scroll down here, it means, so that's a word for a small hut in the forest built to protect against predators. So I mean, yeah, it kind of makes sense why it's named like that. So they provide 3 different things. They provide domains, VPN, I guess. I mean, VPN, yeah, sure, whatever, and server. So I mean, for this video, of course, the servers thing is important, but if you self-host anything, you also need a domain. And I've only used this for domains. And for domains, honestly, it's been pretty good. Like, they charge 15 euros a month, 15 euros a year for every domain. And yeah, it kind of just works. Yeah, not really much to say there. Like, I haven't had any problems with that at all. Again, with servers, I haven't tested them out. So I don't know how they fare on that regard. Yeah, so I mean, and of course they also accept crypto payment methods, and apparently also PayPal. So yeah, whatever. But they also accept Monero and Bitcoin and whatnot. So yeah, that's another provider that also they don't ask for like any personal details, and the Cockbox VPS also doesn't. So, and the third one I want to mention is Flokinet, and this one I have again used in the past, and I can't remember if I've used them for domains also, but I did use them for like servers like VPS. So to self-host stuff. And I mean, they don't ask for anything. They accept crypto payment. I mean, they're fine. I don't know. Their site sometimes is a bit broken. Like if I remember correctly, so if I click on this might not even work. So their site is a bit. Oh no, now it does. Okay, so yesterday when I tested it out, this didn't work. So their site is kind of if I remember correctly, their site is a bit buggy sometimes, or at least it seemed buggy to me. But maybe they fixed that also. So again, I mean, prices are of course higher than with like mainstream providers, but that's just to be expected. Domains, again, I don't think I have any experience with that, but VPSs, I think it was fine. Like I had again some problem with my server, like some networking issue, which was kind of weird. And then I contacted support, and they fixed it after a while, and then also kind of gave me back my money for that. So they increased the time span for which I had paid. So for the time that my server didn't work correctly, if that makes sense. So yeah, I mean they're good in my experience. Not really much to add on that. So oh yeah, if I remember correctly, they do ask you for like personal information, but you don't have to provide it. Like something along those lines. So I think they're based in Iceland, if I remember correctly. So yeah, that's another provider you can use. And now to the fourth tab I have here, and this is what I actually use. It's Hetzner, and Hetzner is, I mean, I think it's Germany's like biggest like VPS provider. So I mean, this is very mainstreamy. Obviously, I mean, look at the AI generated graphic here. So. And kind of, they don't accept crypto. They ask for all the personal information, like you would expect, and all this kind of stuff. So they're very mainstream. And I think nowadays it's very annoying to get an account. Even back when I started using them, it was also annoying. And I first couldn't even get one because I was like behind a VPN back then, or behind Tor or something. And yeah, it was very annoying. But since then, like it's been pretty good. I mean, it just works. There are no like networking issues or server issues and stuff like that. They're very cheap. So yeah, they compete, like when it comes to price point, they compete with like DigitalOcean and stuff like that. So I think that was even like one of my main motivations behind using them first. And yeah, so I kind of want to get into why I don't use like these kind of other services which provide the ability to pay with crypto. And that is, like in my situation, it's very annoying to pay with crypto on a monthly basis. Like it's very annoying because nowadays you can't even easily get cryptocurrency without registering with some how they're called, like exchanges, with some if I can speak, with some exchange, and they will not only ask for your personal information, like, well, what's your name, well, where do you live, and stuff like that. They will also they need to verify that because of KYC laws, so know your customer laws. And like I even had an account on one of these exchanges like some years back, and it was fine. I mean, I needed to provide my what's it called, like the kind of personal document, the kind of personal ID document stuff. And I mean, I was kind of like, well, that's kind of very but okay, if it's just like a scan from my document, I mean, it's fine. But nowadays, like they then changed it, and I had to to reactivate my account. I had to like take a picture of myself and whatever, and it's like kind of like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. Like that's too much. Like for my personal taste, I mean, like to buy crypto. Yeah. So, and that is And so if you don't use a exchange, like if you don't use a normal exchange, you kind of have to get your crypto through other like channels. And yeah, in my experience, it's just very annoying and a very big hassle. And you kind of always have to keep this in your mind, because I mean, if you don't have crypto, if you don't have enough crypto to pay for your server, it's gonna run out. You're gonna lose your data. You're gonna lose all the setup you have. It's just annoying, to be honest. And I don't really see any reason to do this in cases where like pseudo anonymity is enough, if that makes sense. So yeah, and I mean that I could even go deeper with this. Like, for example, like the payment method and also the information you provide to your VPS provider, like you always also have to keep in mind, well, if you're going to connect to your VPS, you want to stay private in terms of like with regards to your VPS provider, you always have to go through a separate, like you always have to go through a proxy, like most likely Tor. So you also have to keep that in mind, and you kind of have to think about, well, or you have to deal with like the Tor legacy, so the not legacy, latency, so the latency of the Tor network. And it's just you always have to keep in mind all of these things. And then also, for example, if you write a web service and you have like some admin interface, you have to think about, well, to make it impossible for my VPS provider to actually find out like where I am, who I am, whatever, you also should think about, well, I can now only connect to this admin user interface through, again, the Tor network, for example, to hide my IP. So to make it like technically impossible to find out who you are, and stuff like that. Like if you actually want to be like waterproof, anonymous in that regard, like there's just a lot of stuff to think about. And like together with the aspect of like the annoyance of getting crypto nowadays, like it was, to be honest, too much for me. And also I couldn't like justify the work that went into simply getting a VPS. So, and I guess you can even go deeper with that in terms of like popularity and the need for anonymity, because and I guess I can kind of mention what I mean with that, because if you are unpopular, I mean, no one cares. Like no one cares what you do, no one cares what you say, all this kind of stuff. So, and this is also the reality with like VPS providers and servers and self-hosting stuff. Like, yeah, in most cases, no one's gonna care. And this has also been my like very practical experience. So for one example, for example, you need in Germany, you need for every website, you need an imprint. So you need to have a dedicated site on your website that states who is actually running this website, and you need to have a like postal address there where it can be reached, and it needs to be like an actual like juristic person, I guess, and all this kind of stuff. But like, who's gonna check that? If you're unpopular, if no one's visiting your site, no one cares. Like there are no like no one's gonna care. Like that's just the reality. So yeah, like having this enormous amount of work just to hide something no one cares about anyways, it's just kind of like, why? At least for me. So yeah, again, that's kind of my reasoning. I hope I kind of got my point across. So if you care about more of my like thoughts on and takes on privacy, I mean, you can read the article on my website. I've written some of these down. I think the article was called Thoughts on Privacy, and I've also made some videos on that. So I think, of course, privacy is important, and so on. But like at some point, you have to ask, well, is this like, where's the like, when do you stop? Because you're still like tethered to the internet. Like if quote unquote they, and they meaning like 3-letter agencies, this kind of stuff. If they want to find out who you are, like who is hosting some site, I mean, they will. Like simple as that, and so on. So yeah. So I guess that's all I wanted to say. Not that I need to justify my choice of VPS provider, but I think it's an interesting point and an interesting like topic of discussion. So I thought I would just expand on it a little bit. But if you want private VPS providers, I mean, you can visit these three. or you can like search on the internet for more. I mean, there are lots more providers out there. These are just the ones I have used and I have like direct experience with. So yeah, I would just recommend you try these out. You see what fits your personal situation. Maybe you have a lot of crypto and you can pay these services with crypto easily. So yeah, that's nice. All right, so that's it. That's all I want to say in this video, and have a nice day.